Hello everyone, Randy here from Aquarium Co-op, and today we are going to hatch brine shrimp at the warehouse and also show you the new Ziss ZH700 that, depending on when this video comes out, we may have in stock, or at least we should have in stock. So same quality, same awesome kind of features and designs, but just in a different, smaller, compact shape at a little bit of a lower price than the ZH2000, this classic brine shrimp hatcher right here. So Ziss came out with a smaller, kind of more economical model, if you will. Holds up to about 800 milliliters of water, but I'm gonna run it at 700 milliliters of water. I don't wanna put too much in there. And this one, the ZH2000, is 2 liters, so 2,000 milliliters of water. And I'm gonna just show you my brine shrimp hatching process, whether I'm using the big guy or the little guy. It's a pretty simple, straightforward thing when you're using this hatcher, when you're using Aquarium Co-op Easy Brine Shrimp Salt, and you're using the gold standard of brine shrimp eggs, the Aquarium Co-op Liquid Gold Brine Shrimp Eggs. All right, so the first thing I'm gonna do, we've established our water here. Now this water is passed, or it's come out of our plant system from our utility sink that we have. So it has already gone through a chlorine and chloramine block to pull out those chemicals in the water. Now, I've heard it said that you can use chlorinated water because it helps to kind of break down the shell of the brine shrimp egg. I've never really done that. Actually, no, I have used tap water in Washington, but we didn't have chloramines. And so it's the chloramines that I'm not really sure about. So I could try to hatch this with regular tap water from the warehouse, but since we do have chloramines in our water, I'm gonna use water that is basically filtered, that has no chloramines or chlorines. So you might wanna run some dechlorinator in your water if you want to. You know, you could try it out, see what happens, see what kind of results you get. So what I'm doing here is my ratio is going to be, for every 1 liter of water, I'm going to do 1 tablespoon of brine shrimp salt. And it's not a precise thing. Like, this shouldn't be anything like overly scary or anything. I'm not even using like a level scoop on this one. This is our Aquarium Co-op 2 like dual-sided spoon that we have here. However, I'm like, again, I just don't care that much in terms of to be overly precise. So I'm gonna dump 1 in. Let's get a second scoop for this guy. And that one, a little bit more generous on that one, but close enough. Okay, so now this guy, I'm just gonna use 1 scoop, but I'm purposely on this one gonna go less than a full scoop, right? Because I'm at 700 milliliters versus, you know, closer to 2,000 milliliters here. Or at least the 1,000 milliliter to 1 tablespoon ratio, or 1 liter. So I'll just very carefully put that in there. There we go. All right. So we're done with our salt. And now, with this solution, I've pushed the amount of brine shrimp eggs that I've hatched in the past in my Washington fish room. I've done like up to a full tablespoon. A lot of times I would do 2 teaspoons. The tank I'm gonna feed right over here with rice fish and growing out, White Cloud Mountain minnows and a couple of rosy barb fry that were left over. I'm gonna do a very small amount in both of these because I don't need to hatch a lot. So what I'm getting at is, this doesn't change. Your water to salt mix ratio is gonna stay constant. And what will change is how much brine shrimp you actually want to hatch out. So I'm actually gonna use a little scoop from our Magic Small Fish Feed container. And I'm just gonna get in here and do that much. So that's a tiny amount, but that's actually gonna be a lot of brine shrimp. And I'll just put that in there. There it goes. And then I'll do the same thing here. And I feel like I'm probably gonna have extra brine shrimp from when I hatch this out, that more than these guys are gonna wanna eat. So I might feed some of the fish in the warehouse tanks. So just kind of swirl that around to get a little bit more of the egg off of the spoon. Set that to the side. And now, what I'm gonna show you is how I prefer to run my brine shrimp hatchers. Now, I like to go air pump, air line, directly into the very bottom nozzle of these hatchers. The instructions, will show you run the rigid airline tubing from the cap down to an air stone inside, but I find that's just, 2 more things to have to clean when you're done hatching out brine shrimp. And that is a very important thing, is to make sure you thoroughly clean your hatchers, especially down here where these O-rings are on this adjustment nozzle, because over time, if you just do a simple rinse after one hatch, you're probably going to be okay for your second hatch. However, if you go a week or so without actually cleaning this thing out, you can have fouled up hatches. You can contaminate your hatch. And even with our brine shrimp eggs, you can ruin an entire hatch, right? And if you don't find that out 48 hours, 72 hours after you start your hatch, that's a bit of a bummer. So do a good job, unscrew these completely when you're done harvesting your brine shrimp, and do a good job, do a thorough clean. Get in there with hot water, paper towel, a scrubber, algae scrubber every once in a while, and really clean this thing out. Clean both of them out, right? When whatever you're using. So so I'm going straight airline tubing into that. Now on this one, it's a tight fit, so you really gotta, muscle it in there, but I think it's worth it to hatch and harvest this way. So I'm now gonna power on my air pumps. I'm gonna just turn those both on. And there we go. And honestly, you don't need a wild agitation. I've done it with a wild agitation. It will do just fine, but you could also use a gentle agitation. You don't have to go crazy with this. All right. Now the next thing is, here is the lid for the Ziss ZH2000. You'll notice I've put a little wadded piece of plastic here. You can also use a bottle cap. One of the wide mouth bottle caps will fit, at least the ones I had. I think it was like Sobe or the Costco version of Life Water, fit perfectly in there. And this is actually the hole for a heater. So if you were putting this in a cold room and you wanted to speed up the hatch a little bit, you could run a heater in there and keep the temperature at, I don't know, 78, 79 degrees, maybe 77. I've never run it with a heater. So to me, this hole is just kind of an escape for water and evaporation. It's not a perfect fit. This little thermometer port is also going to be open, but I don't care. I just want that main hole, most of it covered. So that's what that looks like. And then for this one, it's obviously going to be a round one. And this is an example I currently have set up of the lid. I've got my little plastic shoved in there where the heater would go. But this is the hard, rigid airline tubing, and that's the air stone that will come supplied with it. So you could run it like that, right? You just stick that on in there. I'll go ahead and do it. It'll make me clean it, but that's fine. Oh. And even then, see, you have to trim it a little bit to fit. So another reason, don't do it this way, do it my way, or do it however you want. So since I'm not gonna run it that way, I'm going to take that off, put it on there, and that's it. No crazy, mystical magic that I had to perform or anything, just 1 tablespoon per liter of water. So again, for this one being less than a liter of water at 700 milliliters, I did less than a tablespoon, just slightly less than a tablespoon, and then kind of as much brine shrimp as you wanted to hatch. With this guy, I'd probably say, I don't know, a tablespoon might be the most that you'd want to put in this guy. Or, experiment, push it a little harder if you want to, and, really get a bigger hatch out of it. But in a couple days, we'll come back and I will show you how I harvest here at the warehouse. So thanks for watching. All right, it has been 2 days since I started the brine shrimp hatch, and today is harvest day. Now, disclaimer, I put a very small amount in the larger hatcher, a small amount of eggs in the larger hatcher. And then after I got done filming, I realized that may not show you, at least visually, how great the separation is in our eggs. So I went ahead and dumped like a half a teaspoon in here, maybe a full teaspoon, just to show you. And then I'm gonna end up overfeeding some tanks here at the warehouse with brine shrimp, but the fish will be fat and happy, it'll be fine. This one still has the same amount of 1 scoop of a smaller amount of eggs, where again, I went and put more in here just to show you the separation. And then also, let's see if they wanna come out of hiding. I got some new fish. Let's see, oh, there we go. We got somebody. I have never played around with crebensis, and I picked some up at a local fish store here. I got a trio. I believe that's the boy right there hiding. Oh, ducked away. Let's see here, got some rosy barb fry in there. Where are the girls at? One of the girls had a nice big belly on her, had all that color on her. Ooh, we already got some action going on in the coat. Oh, awesome. So yeah, those guys are gonna get down on some baby brine shrimp. So next thing I'm gonna do is turn off the air, let it settle a bit, and then I will show you the separation on these eggs, and then I'll switch over to an action cam so I can show you how I harvest them here at work. All right, so it's been a couple minutes now, and the brine shrimp is pretty much settled. What's funny is I think I'm actually going to be able to show you separation, egg separation better on the small one than I am the big one. So here we go. Let's see what we can do. So in here, you're going to notice at the very top, you've got that real dark band, and that's going to be all the hatched eggs. Just floated right to the top. And then look at all that beautiful liquid gold in there, as Master Breeder Dean calls it. How close can I punch in? Well, we found it. We found the limit of how close I can punch in. All right, let's see if we can't refocus, and we're refocused. Okay. And as we go down, I've got my cell phone down below, providing a light source, which attracts them. But because I put more brine shrimp in there, good for the fish, not so good for showing you how awesome the eggs are, though, in terms of the separation. But, I mean, there's a ton of live baby brine shrimp right there that need to get harvested out. And if we go back up, you see all the ones up here swimming around. And now if we go to the small one, granted it's not as thick of a band. Actually, it is kind of the same thickness of the band. I guess just bigger surface area in the larger one, so it spreads out more. But look, you see all the baby brine shrimp swimming around in there. And then as you come down here, you can see all the baby brine shrimp down there. So I guess with the original amount, and if you remember, that was a very teeny tiny scoop of eggs that I put in here. Look at all this brine shrimp. Look at all that brine shrimp in here that I'm gonna harvest out. So the fish in the office, they're gonna eat well right now. All right, I'm gonna switch over to a action cam and show you how I'm gonna harvest this. All right, so here we go. I have no idea how the audio is gonna be on this, but let's try it. So this is a Ziss brine shrimp sieve, and I think we might bring these in. There is one that's a little bit of a larger size. There's more optimizing that could be done to this to make it fit even better with these, but for right now, this is as good as I've got, and it's a nice fine screen, so it's gonna let the water pass through, but not the brine shrimp. So what I'm gonna do, will that fit? Does this almost fit? We're gonna learn on the fly. Oh, that's a missed opportunity. That could have fit on there. That would have been nice. So I'm gonna set this right there in the sink. Now this is a clean sink. I don't have any detergents or any cleaners that were in there, so it's been rinsed out. I'm gonna unscrew the bottom here. See if I can turn. I'm gonna unscrew this, and the brine shrimp's gonna come out, and I'm gonna watch it, because once it gets to this level, the separated eggs level, I don't want it to go into my sieve. So here we go, with 2 hands holding. And now as I do this, I'm just gonna let it open. Don't do it too much, because if you unscrew this, it's gonna fall off the bottom, and then water and brine shrimp are gonna come straight out the bottom. So I'll be able to lift it up like this. And then you can see all the brine shrimp starting to collect on the sieve. The water's passing through, but the brine shrimp is collecting. And I gotta keep an eye on the water level. And we're getting close, we're getting close. In this method, you will lose, I don't know, a couple dozen or so brine shrimp, probably more, but quick, okay. So there we go. That last bit of water is gonna drain out of there. And you can see that's just the remaining brine shrimp in there. Beautiful. Now, we've got this kind of in the way. So let's go ahead and add this guy now. So this is gonna be fun. So I'm gonna do, again, my two-handed method to start it. I'm gonna unscrew the bottom. There we go, so much more in this one. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna have to hold this one for a while. There might be like a fast forwarding that happens. So since I did harvest so much, you can see just how golden orange red that is. Okay, we're about halfway done. Again, this is all just brine shrimp coming out with the water. But I don't want those hatched eggs in here. That is so much more brine shrimp than I actually need. I think I might actually freeze some of this for later feeding out. I bought a silicone tray for making rapashi that I haven't used. So maybe I'll scoop some of it in there. Easy as this. So you guys saw how I hatched it. You're seeing how I'm harvesting it, and there's nothing to it. When you've got good eggs, when you have good brine shrimp salt where you don't need to add any buffering into it, when you've got great hatchers, that's all you need, that and time. And a little bit of temperature. These were going at, I think that room was about 70 degrees, 71, 72 degrees, 48 hours. Nothing too crazy. I sound like I'm talking about making sourdough or something, about how I'm describing the cooking process. All right, we're almost there. Almost there. You see all that, all those eggs? We don't want those in the sieve. So to me, it's a don't get greedy. Stop it before it gets too low so you don't get greedy. I've already got a ton of brine shrimp, and I don't want to get those. Oh, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Okay. I'm good with that. Very satisfied with that. Look at all those. Look at all those brine shrimp. All right, let's go. Let's go feed it out. All right, back to the big camera. There it is. Look at all that amazing golden fresh baby brine shrimp. Easy feeding port. Open. Little tiny spoon that comes in Magic Small Fish Feed. Got it. And I'm just gonna scoop, and then we're just gonna plop it in here. Let's see what kind of shot I can get. And the fish come to feast. Got a snail in focus. All right, let's feed them some more. Yeah, this is gonna be an absolute buffet in this tank. The cribs are gonna be so happy. They're gonna say, we hit the jackpot. Is this what we're gonna eat every day? Not every day. Rosie Barb Fry are gonna come over and get down on some. White Cloud Mountain minnows in there getting at it. So easy as that, everyone. Aquarium co-op brine shrimp eggs, Ziss hatcher, Aquarium co-op brine shrimp salt. And if you want the ZH700, we should have that in stock here pretty soon, if not already. Or the original ZH2000, the 2-liter one. And they are gonna be just happy fish in there. All right, and to wrap this video up again, I made way too much for demonstration purposes, so I'm gonna use this silicone ice cube tray. I've already filled a little bit of the bottom with some tank water, and I'm just gonna take some time and, actually I should probably get a bigger scoop. Where's the bigger scoop? Right here. We'll put a little bit more tank water in this. All right, and then I'm just gonna scoop. This is real tricky with one hand. And I'm slowly just gonna fill that up. I might even actually do a couple of these little hex cubes, just so I have several days or several different feedings instead of putting it all in one. Because that right there, that is a ton that will take care of this tank for a solid feeding. So I'm probably gonna fill up maybe 3 or 4 of these guys. And that's a great thing to do if you overhatch on your baby brine shrimp, or you're being strategic. Maybe you only want to hatch once a week, feed out live once, and then the rest of the week you're feeding out frozen baby brine shrimp cubes. And that is a great option. That is totally a great option that you can do. And then your fish just go crazy. Get nice, big, pink, reddish bellies. There's nothing better than seeing your fry with pink belly. Ooh, can we get the Rosie Barb with some pink belly? Come on, do it. Get in there. It's right there. It's right there, but it won't focus. All right, take my word for it. Pink bellies on the fry. It's awesome. Thank you very much. Get yourself some Aquarium Co-op baby brine shrimp eggs, guys.